I think a good place to start would just be to explain on both ends, like who are we and really what are we doing? Do you mind just explaining what you're doing at the moment, what you're working on?
Yeah, sure. So I guess there's a couple of things. So I started teaching yoga and meditation about a year and a half ago and absolutely like fell in love with it. So my background, I was previously in property, so it was a complete lifestyle change. And so a lot of what I do is online meditations, but I've got a huge passion for mindset and psychology. I qualified as a coach about 4 years ago. So in 2022, I came up with this concept called mindful escape.
Mhm.
And the whole idea is that I help people create the life they love. And it's mainly for people who are stuck in the corporate world. They're busy professionals, they're stressed, they're anxious, high cost of living, and they're looking to get out, but it doesn't feel like there's any way of them getting out. So I just incorporate mindfulness, meditation, and coaching and basically guide people through. And then bigger picture is mindful escape will be a community where people live together, live off the land. There's workshops, retreats, and all of that. So yeah, in a short summary,
Yeah.
that's where I am.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And yeah, we connected through one online community that we're in together. And I wanted to reach out and speak with you here because I was looking through some of your content on YouTube. And man, when you say when you work with busy professionals, it's like there's such a loosening up of things with this kind of work. Like especially some of the topics like me and you both speak about. It's like it's such a letting down of the guard and just a loosening up and really getting quiet with things, which I think is really refreshing for people. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
to explain a little bit about what I'm doing as well. So yeah, a couple different things I'm working on right now. First of all, I have a digital marketing service where I'm helping home improvement companies book in more work for their business. So I've been really focused on that for the past year now. I've also have my YouTube channel called Life Design, and yeah, I speak about a range of topics on there. But if I were to sum that up a little bit, I would say they're in the realm of spirituality, living abroad. That was a big experience for me, and really, yeah, really looking at your own life as something to design yourself and have in your control. And I would say it's when I think of life design, I think of it as a message, a community, and I'm also putting together a program right now where I can work one-on-one with people. So that's interesting too. But
Yeah.
but yeah, that's been an interesting journey in itself over the past like 5 months, just staying consistent with that.
Hmm. Yeah. It's actually funny. It's like, as I'm listening to you speak, it's it's a similar direction, right? It's creating or designing a life for people and coming away from the old way of living. And I think my whole thing with mindful escape, it was finding a way to escape the world that we're confined to or the mindset that we're conditioned to live by,
Mhm.
and escape from that mindfully. And listening to you talk, it's almost, yeah, it's very similar. It's a similar direction heading towards that community. And it feels like it's the way the world is going right now.
Dude, I completely agree. I actually heard this quote recently. There's never been more pressure to be an entrepreneur, which I think is very relevant right now because it does seem like the world is starting to sway that way of okay, maybe I don't have to work this job that I'm in, or maybe I don't have to just lay my time out there just for anyone to grab onto, you know? Um, I think that's the big thing with people working jobs or people living lives that they don't feel like it's in complete alignment. It's like their time is kind of scattered all over the place. It's like other people have have a have a say over their time, which is really just
Mhm.
like an attack on personal freedom, you know? So so
Yeah,
yeah, I definitely resonate with you saying that.
it feels like we get drawn into this way of living and we work our way up the corporate ladder. We start getting paid good money, and it's very easy to get stuck into that or sucked into it and then get stuck.
Hmm.
Um, and it's funny because a lot of people I speak to, they're in this mindset of, oh, well, I can't change things now. I've got a mortgage, I've got kids, and I'm essentially trapped in this lifestyle. But as you know, and obviously with the group that we're in, it's all about mindset shifts and looking at things from a different perspective. And actually, we can all change our lives. We can all change the way that we see the world and what we do and how we live life. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. When was that time for you? Like when you said you were in real estate, when was the
Mm-hmm.
time where you thought this it's like something needs to change or this doesn't feel like me?
So when I was 31, I think it was, yeah, about 7 years ago, I just hit burnout. I was completely stressed. I was struggling with anxiety, was feeling depressed. I was working like crazy hours, like real estate, right? It's all round the clock, weekends. There's no switching off. Um, so I quit my job that I was working in, and I thought, okay, I need to make this work somehow because I've been working in the industry for at the time must have been at least 10 years, and in my mind there was no other route. Right, I've only done real estate my whole life. That was the career I had to go down, and there wasn't another option. So then I went to another company and it didn't work. Then I went to another company and it wasn't working. And then I got to a point at 35 and I was like, right, something's got to shift. So I just quit, sold everything I had, and I actually flew to Spain, funny enough. I had a flight booked within 3 weeks and I was gone,
Okay.
one way ticket. And I was like, I've got to change my life. I made that decision, took action, and yeah, that was
Okay.
the beginning.
Where did you head to in Spain? Curious.
I I went to a retreat in Malaga,
Okay.
and then my cousin lives in Valencia. So I was at
Really?
the retreat for a long weekend, and then I went to see him in Valencia. And I was like, look, I need to find a life of freedom and flexibility. That's what I'm looking for.
Dude, this is wild. Because I lived in Valencia for 2 years.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
That's where I was at. Yeah. So that's a perfect alignment right there, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But but yeah, I was in Valencia from fall 2021
Yeah.
until June 2023, this past year. About Yeah, I was there teaching English in primary school, helping out with that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, really really cool program. I was in this program where I could go work in Spain, work in a primary school, teach English, live there, get paid a decent livable wage. So, yeah, absolutely, absolutely incredible. I'm a big Spain fan for sure.
So I'm curious because you mentioned earlier about spirituality
Hmm.
and you talk about it on your podcast. Is that something that you've always been into your whole life, or is that something that came at a later stage?
Um, it's interesting looking back now. I feel like there was always that whisper or like flame. There was always something in the background. I think that's the best way to describe it, right? But yeah, graduating, like graduating high school in 2015, um, there was always that thing kind of speaking to me or guiding me in a certain way. And it's a really hard thing to articulate, but really as the years went on and going through college, definitely had a built a stronger relationship with it there. And then going to Spain, definitely built a strong relationship with it there. Um, but definitely in the past year or two, it's grown a lot stronger. And really with my experience with the work that I'm doing right now, coming back from Spain, really working every day on the things that I'm working on right now, and really just grinding through some of those waves of emotions and just ups and downs and like endless doing, really.
Hmm.
Um, that endless doing and falling into that trap almost of just endless doing. And really like over these past 6 months, I've experienced these times where we feel like we need to do things out here, and it's all about doing things and getting things done and working, and like the more hours, the better. That's always what you're told, right? There's been many times now where I've actually stepped back from that, and then things just work better when I do
Hmm.
when I do step back. Um, so that's been a big part of spirituality side of things is
Hmm.
that surrender, and and following that intuitive pull on the direction you're going. So whether it's and this is why I think about it now when it comes to intuition and um just overthinking things. There's this intuitive pull that I feel where I'm just being like pulled in certain directions, you know, where when it's time to work, of course, like I get pulled in that direction, like it's time to work. When it's time to rest, okay, I get pulled in that direction too, step back. So yeah, when I think of spirituality as a whole in my eyes, it's that intuitive guidance, I would say.
Hmm.
Yeah, what is your experience been like?
So I came from a very practical world where I didn't believe in anything spiritual at all. It was all about practicality and materialism and that kind of life. And when I went on the initial retreat in Spain, we
Mm,
did this. It's like a dynamic meditation, and it's a four-part meditation. And the last part, you lie down. And I just had this feeling that I had basically come out of my body and said to myself, just follow your heart. And it was such a weird experience for me because I always worked with my head, right? It was all everything had to be a logical decision. And it was just this thing of, okay, follow your heart, like do what you feel is pulling you, like what you were saying, like see what
mm,
pulls you and go with that flow type thing. And I fell into a similar trap to you, to be honest. I was being productive for the sake of being productive and just doing things. And I was traveling while trying to build a business, and I probably wasn't enjoying the traveling as much or enjoying building my business as much because I was just trying to do everything.
mhm.
And and I got to a point, I had arrived in India, and I just thought, I just need to stop. Just stop for a moment and just enjoy this whole journey that I'm going on. And so I just stopped. I stopped coaching. I stopped doing the meditations. I stopped teaching. And I was like, I'm just having a break now. I stopped recording videos on YouTube. And for, I think it was about probably about 10 weeks, something like that, I just went into a state of just trying to enjoy every moment. Tried surfing. I was doing all these weird and wonderful things, trying different workshops, and just trying to enjoy the moment, meeting some amazing people, enjoying the traveling, enjoying the countries. Went back to Vietnam, and yeah, I was just got to this place where I was just enjoying everything. And then I had this feeling, okay, now it's time to get back to work. And then I don't know, it's kind of, you just get that feeling, right? You follow the heart. And then I just had this feeling, okay, now's the time to start recording again. So I started getting back onto YouTube. I went back onto social media, started speaking to people about my coaching. And yeah, it's just going with that flow and not getting back into that old habit of just doing things for the sake of doing, and actually moving forward with intention and purpose and clarity.
Hmm. Damn it, awesome. Yeah. And it's so easy to just to get back into that, like fall back into those old habits at times, right? Because your mind wants to tell you to worry
Mm-hmm.
and get anxious, that things aren't gonna work out okay, right? But man, experiencing this thing, and what you were talking about there too, just that intuitive guidance, that following your heart. It's really a warming feeling of just knowing, just let things take you in a certain way. And man, I think what it sounds like on your end too is that there's these certain experiences that sort of build over time. Like maybe you have a set of like just a few experiences where you specifically remember those ones
Mm-hmm.
because they left an impact you in a certain way. It was really interesting when I was in Spain. This was probably like 2 years ago now, but this is one of those experiences too, which was very much highlighted and just out of the blue. But I sat down before I was going to bed the one night, and just regular routine, 20-minute meditation usually, something like that. And I was sitting down, and in the meditation I had this overwhelming feeling of just this, like what I like to call this intuitive nod, where it was just telling me like just keep going. That was the message, like just continue on. That's it. And it was very like laid back, this surrendering feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the word that came to my mind there was blueprint when that happened. Like that was, I got handed over these coordinates, or like this blueprint really of how to make things work or how to live, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's this really refreshing feeling of being handed over this blueprint of, look, like this is the map. This is the map. And I was just in awe from that experience. And I got up from that meditation and was just blown away by by this feeling. And then I went to bed that night. I had a dream, and in that dream, I dreamt of my mom, and I was just telling her in that dream, like, I can live a great life. Like I have this blueprint, right? It was a connection there. Um, and then from that, the next day, I actually had another connection with it, where basically it was through texting my mom as well, where there was like a third alignment there. Um, so that was a moment where I was shocked by how that all panned out. And yeah, just a baffling moment of synchronicity, I guess.
Yeah, but it's amazing when it all just, it's the old, I can't remember who said it, but you can't join the dots looking forward, but you can join the dots looking back. And
Hmm.
as you look back and you see all those synchronicities, and you're like, ah, it all makes sense now.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's such a vulnerable thing to lean into that. Like
Mm,
looking forward. I can be. that can be a scary thing to begin with, you know. But um, but again, it's that intuitive guidance. When
Yeah.
when was it for yourself that you first started getting into meditation and you thought for yourself like this is something that I should continue on with?
Mm, I think I first came across it about 8 years ago, and I had the Headspace app, and I was just trying to work my way through that, but I never stayed consistent with it. Um, I would go through periods of like doing it every day for a month, and then I'd stop, and then I'd go back to it when I was feeling like I needed it. Um, but yeah, I guess so on and off for about 8 years, and then about 2.5 years ago, I started getting really serious about it. And I did my yoga teacher training where they teach you a style of meditation as well. And then I was just looking at all the different various types of meditation. Because what I found is that some styles of meditation work for some people and some don't. And it's all about finding the style that works best for you. And everyone's on their own unique journey, right? Everyone's got their own individual path, and people work in different ways. And yeah, I found my style of practice, and then I just stuck with it. And I think similar to what you were saying, when I'm practicing my meditation, everything becomes clearer. Everything is calm. Everything is, well, you haven't got the worry. And that thing about, oh, everything is going to be okay. As you said, it's scary at the start, but
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's still
everything
scary.
is. Yeah. But
Yeah.
you know, everything is going to be okay. Right? You just have to remind yourself. And if there's ever a day that I miss my meditation practice and I find myself worrying about something, I know it's because I haven't taken that time out to find my peace and come into that state of calm and tranquility and be able to move through the day with ease and not worrying about the future, because that's where most of it comes from, right? The worry about what the future holds. And as
Hmm.
you said earlier, as soon as you surrender and let go to that, and then you can start moving with flow.
Yeah. Yeah, and man, with yoga and meditation specifically, there's just like I was talking about at the beginning, there's just this loosening that happens. Um, and I find it so interesting. I was actually talking to Jordan about this as well. But it seems like when you get quiet and you follow that intuitive guidance, it feels like things just fall into place. And I think one I've had a few different experiences over the past however many years, but there's a very natural of things just sort of falling into their own place. And you look for that natural way of being, and you look for that quiet in more areas of your life, right? It's almost like I titled the video this too, but it's like craving for less. Like your default mode is the silence. And when there's the background noise and there's chaos and stimulus, it's like I don't want that. I don't want that. But I think a good example for me recently of this is I think it's common for almost everyone to have some sort of like entertainment when they're eating their meals.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds like kind of a weird thing, but like there needs to be some form of entertainment or TV or stimulus listening to something when you're eating. But I got to a point like over these past 6 months where I noticed like when I ate my meals and watch something or entertainment, listen to something, it's like there was just too much stimulus, like there was too much going on. And this was one of those natural things that just happened where I started eating my meals outside in just complete silence, like nice spring weather in the summertime, or yeah, nice spring, like sunny weather. And I just felt this complete like loosening up and like untangling of my mind take place, which was really which was really relaxing and refreshing. And it honestly brought a lot of clarity to me. Because I think a lot of times we go along and maybe it's just one thing, maybe it's just one tweak that needs to happen to really upgrade your whole system in a way, right? We're looking for all these different ways to optimize, but maybe there's just one big needle mover that'll give you that boost in clarity or silence. But I think that's an interesting example, and yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I actually had a really similar experience. So I like to think that I eat very healthily. But I kept getting bloated after eating. And I had a chat with a friend who's an Ayurvedic consultant. It's like the ancient Indian science of nutrition, basically.
Mm,
And it was just one phrase that he said to me. He said, "Eat like a lion." And I was like, "What?" He was like,
yeah,
"Eat like a lion. No one else is going to steal your food." So similar to you, I started eating outside and I would just have one mouthful and I'd put the fork down and I'd just sit there and I'd just be grateful for that moment, grateful for the food and not in a rush to eat it because when you're watching entertainment or listening to something, you're just eating and not paying attention to what you're actually doing. And I was just
exactly.
shoveling food down, right? So then I was feeling not great after. And that affects your whole day because you want to go into your work or your performance at your optimal state. And if you're not feeling great, then it doesn't help. So yeah, a tiny change can impact everything.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I actually had a I had another experience similar to that as well, where I noticed I was just eating too fast. And there was literally this time in Spain where I got fed up with it. I'm like, why am I just absolutely crashing when I eat my first meal of the day? Because I do intermittent fasting as well too, about noon.
Okay.
But that first meal I would have was usually a lot of food, and I would just eat way too fast. So I was like, okay, this has to change. Just too much. So I made the one switch of just eating slower. And I noticed how that affected my mental state. There was a lot cleaner balance of energy. Which was a moment for me of realizing how detailed you can get with your body and like the things you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but man, you mentioned you're in your late 30s, you said?
Yeah. Just turned
Wow, dude.
38.
Dude, you look like you're 30. You look like you're my age,
Thank you.
honestly.
I'll take that. How old are you?
I'm 27 right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll go for
Yeah.
that.
I'm kind of curious, dude. Do you do anything for skincare?
No,
Nothing. Yeah.
nothing. Just I try not to use any chemicals at all.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it.
I also try to um limit too many substances for sure.
Hmm.
Um what does your diet consist of? I'm kind of curious.
Mainly fruit and veg.
Nice.
So when I got into my yoga practice, on the teacher training, it's basically no meat. And I've been a huge meat eater my whole life. So I was like, how am I going to go a whole month without meat? And I did the whole month. And I thought, actually, this isn't so bad. I'm going to keep going with it. And I just started feeling so much lighter. Um, and I was like, actually, this is pretty good. I'm quite enjoying this. Um, and then in Asia, you really see how animals are treated, and you would see like pigs and chickens being stuffed into the back of the trucks and stuff like that. And then I don't know, I just had this feeling of I don't think I'm ever going to eat meat again. Like seeing what they're doing to the animals and how I'm feeling, I think I'm just going to cut it out. And then um, I was teaching in Thailand at a Muay Thai resort, and I was doing the Muay Thai training while practicing yoga. It was incredible. The training was just intense. Um, and I the there was a nutrition center there, and I decided to try not having dairy as well as no meat. And it was obviously very hard. But yeah, after a while, I ended up cutting out dairy as well. And now, yeah, no meat, no dairy, no eggs, um, mainly fruit and veg. But
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to ask you that because it looks like you have pretty clear skin, honestly. But I had an experience too over the past 5, 6 months here where I switched to paleo style. So I cut out the heavier carbs like bread, rice,
Hmm. Yeah.
potatoes, and really it's been like ground beef and eggs, and then fruits and vegetables, nuts pretty much. But I've noticed for myself as well this cleansing process take place in terms of skincare, um, and sort of a brightening effect
Hmm.
with my skin that has taken place too. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I've tried so many different ways of eating, and I guess everyone has to find what works for them, right? And I think the main problem is that there's so much rubbish in our food, especially in the States and in the UK. There's so much, like, it's not even food, most of the stuff we buy in the
Yeah.
stores, right? So if we can cut that out, whether you're eating meat or not eating meat, if you're eating a lot of fruit and veg and yeah, looking after yourself, then I think, yeah, you're going to be doing pretty good, right?
Yeah. And man, you say there's a lot of rubbish in the food. The United States, wow. It's wild, man. It's really wild because I bounced back and forth from the United States to Spain like a few different times now. And every time I go to Spain, it's like within a matter of weeks, I just shed this weight. I just shed
Wow.
this body fat, and I can see it in my face. Looking at videos now from a year ago, it's like I look so skinny. And of course, like I work out as well, so I'm always looking at my physique and um getting more detailed with it. But that's been a baffling thing of just recognizing that and okay, what is it about our food exactly that does that? It's like
Mm,
the fast food is barely even food, yeah. Um, but it's almost like there's a complete just messing with the system of our bodies that's doing that. So yeah,
yeah.
really really a concerning thing.
I also realize that it's not just the food, right? It's also our environment and the people that we're around. And I don't know if you noticed it with Spain, but I've noticed being in Asia that the people are a lot less stressed. They're a lot less worried. And when you're around that energy and people are smiling and saying
Hmm.
hello, like obviously if you're eating better as well and then you've got a nicer energy, you're not as stressed, then just generally you feel so much better.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I completely agree because the Spanish culture too. I'm sure you experienced that a little bit. Very laid back,
Mm-hmm.
very very social based. The weird thing is about Spain is our life expectancy here in the United States is like 77 years old. Um, and in Spain it's 83. But you
Wow.
walk Yeah, but you walk around Spain, everyone's drinking, everyone's smoking cigs. Like what? That doesn't make any sense, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, wild.
If if you were to go and speak to yourself from like 2, 3 years ago, if there was one piece of advice that you'd give yourself, what would it be?
I would say I would say surrender for sure. Surrendering's a big one. Mm, in general, everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna play out
Hmm.
okay. And I think getting more in touch with that intuitive guidance. Um, I've also spoken about this recently too, but a big thing for me recently has been that have you seen that map of consciousness? Have you seen that
Hmm.
visual? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been a big teacher for me of understanding that I want to be living in those higher energy states. So when I look at my environment, when I look at the people I'm around, when I look at the work I'm doing, um, how do I put myself in those higher energy states really? And I've even recognized too the music I listen to,
Hmm.
what with it, whether it's music like, country of just heartbreak. You're just always feeling that heartbreak and like loss, or like rap music too. Very like competitive, angry. Um, so I've been looking at those things too, and it's like, okay, do I want to keep training myself on those emotions, right? Because
Yeah.
that's really what it is. It's like, do I want to keep addicting myself to those emotions over and over again? So I'm constantly fiending for that like loss and heartbreak. Um,
Hmm.
so that's one you can go really deep with for sure.
Yeah. One of the things that I found really interesting about that chart is how low guilt and shame are, and how so many of us carry guilt and shame, and most probably don't even realize it. But and that's just affecting us all day, every day, and it's stopping us from raising our vibration and getting into that state of peace, calm, and clarity.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just from the past. We don't need to hold on to that anymore. I can just let go. But we've been conditioned to carry that with us and feel guilty for things that have happened in the past and feel shameful for decisions that we've made. And then as soon as you let go of that, you just allow yourself to
Yeah.
rise up.
There's a heightening, there's like an ascending effect that takes place and
Mm-hmm.
letting those things go. What would you say for yourself as a piece of advice, maybe for yourself 3, 4 years ago?
Mm, I would say work on yourself every day, not necessarily in just going to the gym and like being healthy, but psychologically. I think it's, I think we underestimate how much work there is for us to do. And there's always another level for us to get to. And yeah, I've realized over the last few months, I thought I was so self aware and so advanced in my mindset and understanding all my limiting beliefs. And that, but the more work you do on yourself, the more you uncover and the more you can level up. And yeah, I would say spend more time on that, because the more we work on ourselves, right, the more everything else around us becomes better. And one of my favorite laws is as within, no, so within, as within, so without. And it is basically your internal world reflects in your external reality.
Hmm.
And if we can work on ourselves and change that perception, then our whole world will be so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, it really seems like everything stems from that place. Um, and it's so important like what lens really or what is the soil that's like stemming from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it abundance or scarcity? You know? Because a lot of like the material things can stem from scarcity, but they'll just be had in scarcity, you
Yeah.
know? Um,
I often think about it as, am I acting now out of fear or love? Because you can't have both at the same time.
mhm. Yeah. I yeah. I wrote this thing recently, which I think is an interesting um connection there. But with living out of love, I would say that's a very bold place to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a very courageous thing to do, I would say. When you're living out of fear, there's a fragility in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I related it to the difference between belief and really knowing. So belief, there feels like there's a fragility in that, or there's like a second guessing, right? When you believe something like there's another option to it, you know? Like you could believe in yourself or you could not believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it comes to love, in my opinion, there's a very bold stance there where there's more of a knowing with it. So when you take that stance of living out of love, there's a boldness to it. There's a knowing where it's a matter of information instead of a matter of I believe in it or I don't believe in it. Um, hopefully that makes sense. I'm not sure if that does, but
Yeah. What I took, or the main message I received is that when you take that courageous step or view, you're acting purely out of trust
mhm.
and trusting that everything will be okay.
Yeah, yeah. There's a knowing with things. There's a confiding.
Mm.
Um, but but yeah, that's definitely a bold place to live for sure.
It's definitely a lot easier to slip into the fear state. And I think probably most of our upbringing, we were operating from that state of fear, right? Fear of
Hmm.
what our parents might say, what society would think of us. And then every action beyond that is driven by that fear of something. So to come out of that into a state of completely trusting, as you say, that courageous standpoint is quite a bold thing to do.
Yeah, it's so foreign. It's so foreign to who we are for sure. Um, yeah, we're basically trained on not going there or not looking stupid,
Mm-hmm.
not messing up. It's always like don't like don't mess up, don't be stupid, don't look dumb. It's never it's never like leaning into it or I think that's a difficult thing to try and articulate, but it's never I am capable, I can do this. It's always don't mess up,
Mm-hmm.
which is which is a long which is an untangling process, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you um would you be up for sharing a limiting belief that you either recently overcame or one of the hardest ones that you got over through this journey?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Mm, there was this experience I had, but I'm not sure if it exactly relates to that. For limiting beliefs, I would say overall the fear of not being capable.
Mm.
That's a big one for sure. Um, of just not achieving my goals, you know, of not being able to move to Spain, those kind of things. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of a specific one.
Did something else come to mind earlier that maybe wasn't limiting belief?
Yeah, there's a story which I think maybe could relate. It's
Yeah.
not exactly a limiting belief, I would say, but sort of a breaking
Hmm.
or just a complete shattering of I think it was a shattering of having things under control, I would say. Um,
Okay.
but I had this experience. This was in 2019, and this is something I wanted to run by you too, because this is really interesting. But yeah, in 2019, I went to Copenhagen, Denmark, and I studied abroad there for 6 weeks.
Hmm.
And man, at the end of the experience, is the last week, I ended up I ended up smoking a spliff, which is weed and tobacco mixed.
Hmm.
And it was just a regular thing that we did basically every night with my group of friends there. But this night I smoked it and there was this panic that took place there where I literally felt this wave of just panic and fear and energy kind of go through my head and it really like sat in the back of my head for a while, which is which was wild. And um this completely broke me really because I went to bed that night thinking, let's just try and sleep it off. Let's just let's just try and yeah, sleep it off basically. But I woke up that next morning, nothing happened. Long story short, I returned to the United States the next week, trying to keep things under control, I would say. Um, but when I returned home to the United States, the jet lag set in and I got tired and exhausted and I came to realize like this great experience I had, sort of coming to terms with that, letting that experience go. Um, and I went into this like panic attack for 5 days straight, which was just nothing like I've ever experienced before. Just complete release of something, energy, whatever it was. It was like something took me over almost, and I was just incapable for 5 days. But basically, like disabled because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't interact with people. It's like stimulus was just too much. I just
Hmm.
needed to lay down in a dark room and nothing else. Um, but really to bring this around to sort of breaking my belief system with this, eventually the one day it got better, but over the next 6 months, it's like I was coming down from that edge, right? It's like I had this insane experience and I was slowly like inching my way down off of that edge almost. And I actually went to see a therapist one time shortly after the experience. And this was where he was asking me some questions. And basically I said to him, I said to him, I believed that I think he asked me a question like, how do you think this happened? Or why do you think this happened? I said something like, I believe that I was mentally stronger than this. Like I thought I was mentally stronger than this, you know? Um, and he asked me a question back. He was like, is this about you being mentally strong? Like, do you think this is about that? And that was a moment there which just completely broke my belief system of just, okay, things aren't really the way that they seem. Or I didn't know this level of I didn't know this experience was possible before this. So that was really an experience of just my whole belief system being shattered um in a pretty dramatic way. So yeah, hopefully I sum things up there.
Yeah, I wonder, was there something in particular that what was the big shift? What was the shift in perspective when you said it broke you down? Was it one thing in particular, or was it the whole way that you saw things?
Yeah, it was this perspective that I was in control,
Hmm.
I think is what it was. And it's like with that experience, I felt completely the opposite, like completely out of control. Like something took me over and just caused chaos for like 5 days.
Wow.
And dude, the
Sounds
interest
pretty scary.
yeah, it was a heightening experience. And like even now talking about it, you get those emotions that come up again. Um, but the interesting thing is this was like right around when I started to really get into meditation more.
Mhm.
And actually, when I would go and sit down to meditate, I would go back into the experience, which was weird. So that was a scary thing of like, okay, I need to sit down and meditate and like clear my mind a little bit, but I would actually like fall back into that scary place that I was in.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, it's really interesting.
have you ever had a peak experience like that or anything similar?
Mm, yeah, I've had a few interesting experiences through meditation.
Yeah.
Um, I guess the most familiar is so I'll meditate 2 times in the day. One is first thing in the morning when I wake up, and the other is before I go to bed. And sometimes when I meditate in the mornings, I will get back into the same state that I was when I was dreaming, and I will start remembering my dreams from the night before, which is pretty amazing. It's like,
Mm.
oh yeah, I forgot about that dream, and it starts recalling. So that's pretty cool. Um, there's as part of my practice, so I've taken a path. It's called Kriya Yoga, and it's focused on controlling the energy and the breath within the body. And the main part of that practice is that you focus on your third eye. So when your eyes are closed, you're basically gazing here. And when you practice for a long time, you start to see different things. And one of the ideas is when you close your eyes, it's usually black, or sometimes it can be bright, light, whatever it is that you can see when you close your eyes. And part of the practice is whatever you can see with your eyes closed, try and look beyond it. And then whatever you can see, try and look beyond it.
Mm,
And then you're getting into this such a deep state, and you start seeing like I can only imagine it's different for everyone because I can't really explain the experience. But yeah, it's just like this, you just feel so light and you
mm,
can see all these colors, and it's just this complete state of bliss. It's just, yeah, so beautiful.
mm.
Um, but yeah, I think I can't really put my finger on one specific thing,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
yeah, I think with meditation, the reason I started meditating was to help me manage my stress levels, to help me make better decisions, to feel more relaxed throughout my day. That's why I started it. But why I continue is because of the spiritual advancement and the state of mind that you can get into, and
Hmm.
um, it's just never ending. It's like the more you practice, the more you can develop, and it seems like it's a never-ending journey. And the gurus and the great masters, the enlightened beings, whatever you want to call them, they obviously meditate for hours and hours every day. Um, and I think I live in a place where I enjoy the material world that we live in. So I don't want to go and live in a cave and just go and experience that
Hmm.
enlightenment. At the same time, I would like to experience enlightenment, but still with like one foot in the
Yeah.
material world, one foot in the spiritual world, and experience it all together. Because I really believe that we're spiritual beings in a human body rather than humans who believe in spirituality.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like the spirituality side of things is the foundational level, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting how spirituality gets talked about as this extension or this branch to the, I guess this branch of sort of who we are, but really it's yeah, it's the foundational level of everything. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, man. I know it's getting late for you there, so I won't keep you very much longer. I think this would be a good place to end if that's all good.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Really good. Thank you for your time.
Cool, man. Thanks.